Many thanks for your company. This is the Marketplace. Welcome back. Now, environmental-friendly companies are increasingly attracting support from investors. Banks, local assemblies, and even crowdfunding contributors are prepared to back businesses with a wider impact beyond financial returns. The International Trade Center, ICT, hosted by Ghana Export Promotion Authority, GEPA, has launched its small and medium-sized enterprise units. They are meant to help small and medium enterprises embrace and integrate sustainable business strategies into their daily operations. There's more in this report.
In Ghana, though the impact investing space is small and nascent, there's evidence it's beginning to grow. For instance, between 2005 and 2015, the volume of impact capital deployed in the country equaled $1.69 billion. However, the ability to impact positively on people and the planet by setting specific social and environmental objectives along with financial ones were missing. Even for SMEs focusing on the domestic market, green practices can help them grow their share, though some local consumers may not care much about eco-inclusive products. Regina Taimasova is desk manager at the Trade for Sustainable Development, T4SD.
It's clear that for enterprises the need is huge. As I mentioned in my presentation, today the market reality is that exporters, they cannot simply comply only with mandatory requirements, with mandatory certificates that are requested at the customs ranks. They have to go beyond that. They have to comply with this voluntary sustainability or private standards that are requested by the buyers. So that's why ITC also wants to assist enterprises to, fill this gap and to be ready to sign contracts with the buyers afterwards, like manufacturers, like retailers, especially in the countries like European Union, United States, Australia. Those markets give big premiums to the suppliers from developing countries. So these are, very nice target markets for them.
For 24 months, the hub will coordinate a unique program implemented as a blended learning approach of e-learning and customized face-to-face coaching. It will incorporate ITC's existing tools and services covering sustainability standards in international markets, access to green finance, and international market matching. The hub will mainly focus on processed cocoa, fruits and vegetables. Others are cashew, shea butter, and other natural ingredients, and arts and crafts. Samuel Dentu is Deputy CEO, Ghana Export Promotion Authority.
The agenda of Ghana Beyond Aid means we need to trade with the world. I mean, if you go to look for market outside, everybody who comes to your stand would be asking for certification in either Global GAP, in Fair Trade, and so many other certifications. Various buyers, representing various companies, also have their own voluntary standards. Now, if you do not understand what it takes to get to these standards or to get certification in this standard, then you'll be trading in the dark because you would not be able to sell your product out there. We do not want the situation where SMEs from Ghana will be blocked because they don't have certain certification or they are not trading to be conscious about the environment. And that is why we think that this is a very fundamental project for us to be able to assess the world some more, because the market out there is big, but you cannot easily assess it if you are not ready for it. And so we are getting them ready for the future.
Reporting for JoyNews, Kwesi Debra.
Now, full banking sector confidence should be realized before the end of the year. That is an assurance coming from the Bank of Ghana Governor Dr. Ernest Addison. This was after the first quarter data from the central bank shows that deposits, loan advances, and liquidity have witnessed some marginal improvement. The development is coming after 2 years of reforms which initially impacted on the sector's confidence. But speaking to Joy Business on the sidelines of the IMF World Bank spring meetings, Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, said the new trend should help impact positively on cost of credit this year as well.
Definitely is responding to the policies that have been put into place. The banks are more robust, they are better capitalized. That gives confidence to people to put deposits in the banks. I'm sure there are other non-bank financial institutions that will be losing some of these deposits, and hopefully by the time we finish with the exercise in that sector, you would also see much more stronger non-bank financial institutions. I'm talking about finance houses, savings and loans, rural banks, and microfinance institutions.
Are we giving ourselves any timeline in terms of period where maybe second quarter, third quarter, where these rates again will start reflecting the cost of credit going down and the confidence that we are seeing is going to be consolidated? Because I look at Q1 numbers and I was surprised about the quick impact on the market with respect to what was done over the years.
Well, we're all very hopeful that the impact will be immediate and quick. But I think we need to give ourselves time. The numbers in terms of credit growth has picked up. As of the last MPC, we've seen credit to the private sector go up. We need to sustain that to the end of the year and see how all of that goes.
So maybe third quarter, maybe we will start feeling those impacts in terms of cost of credit as well?
Yes. Remember, the cost of credit is a result of many factors, including some of the developments that are currently ongoing in terms of the demand for credit, the budgetary outturn, in terms of movements in exchange rates and developments in inflation. These are all very dynamic factors, and hopefully, given the current trajectory that we have, we would continue to see a downward trend.
We'll stay at Washington or in Washington for more updates on the IMF spring meetings. The IMF maintained that Ghana is still a high-risk debt distressed country despite recent expansion of the economy. According to the fund, those indicators that need to be improved for this year are yet to be reviewed. A while ago, I interacted with my colleague George Wiafe in Washington, D.C., who is covering the IMF World Bank spring meetings. I first asked him to explain to me what goes into this debt sustainability analysis by the IMF.
It's interesting because when it comes to this whole debt to GDP ratio, apparently when you look at the IMF's own debt sustainability analysis, it's just 1 out of 5 or 7 indicators that they look at in assessing whether you've gotten to a level that you may struggle to pay your debt on time. So even if you have improved with respect to the debt in relation to the size of the economy or even the value of the economy, it doesn't mean that the IMF has to review that status. You want to look at your debt in relation to what you are earning from your exports, your debt in relation to revenue, and these are just a few of the lot of things that the IMF would want to look at in doing that assessment, whether you are of a high risk to debt distress. And the fund is saying that despite the fact that you've expanded the economy and looking at the fact that when you look at even our debt GDP ratio would end the year, that is this year, at 62%, representing just about a 4% jump. This doesn't mean that you've gotten out of that bracket or League of Nations that we say that you are a high risk of debt distress.
Now, George, so what could be the implications of this for the country?
So the fund is telling people out there or telling investors that if you deal with this government, there's a likelihood, and the caveat here is the likelihood that they may have some challenges in paying your debt back on time, Yafe. Because some would also even argue that if you look at our numbers, again, even our history, economic data, it looks like Ghana has never defaulted when it comes to paying debts to investors or those who have borrowed funds to the country. So some would say that, does it really matter? Well, it is just a warning.
So I also wanted to find out what should be government's response to all these, George?
But what can government do? Well, the IMF has an indicators. It's all about expanding the economy and then improving your revenue. So it looks like now that we are out of the program, we have the free space and room to work hard, to look at how we can improve revenue, to look at how we can improve our exports. And this could go a long way in letting the fund then review the status that we are no longer high risk of a debt distressed country.
In this alone?
But there are a lot of African countries, and the World Bank is projecting that by the end of this year, we'll have about more African countries been in this league, and that is a worry. But again, one would say that doesn't really matter. And that's a question a lot of people would ask, because despite this warning, we went out there and got a record investment in terms of persons or businesses out there wanting to lend to government. So maybe it's a warning, all right, but people still believe that government has what it takes to turn around the economy and pay its debt back on time. And
that was George Riafe with some updates in Washington, D.C. on the IMF spring meetings, which is currently ongoing. Away from that, the Director General of the Social Security and National Insurance Trust, SSNIT, says the scheme will be rechecked and given a new life to reflect contemporary demands of the public. There have been some concerns in recent times about the mode of calculation of pensioners' claims, as well as the organization's cash flows, which is undermining payments of beneficiaries. But speaking to Joy Business at a media encounter with the SSNIT at Ebri over the weekend, Dr. John Ufori-Tinkrine says efforts are underway to make sure the scheme is abreast of improvement in people's daily working activities.
I think we have to be very careful about how we handle these issues. I mean, I haven't changed the way SSNIT does business since I assumed office in 2017. Pensions have been paid since 1991, right? And SSNIT has been there with labor on the boards and everything, you know, so I haven't changed anything, right? So if today we are opening up and waking up and engaging, I think both parties have to figure out a way to make sure that the trust is sustainable, both financially and even operationally, right? So I would imagine that the agreements that the parties will come to will be something that that can be implemented, and that will be fair for everybody.
This is live on the marketplace with me, Emmanuel Abuaji Riafe. Let's do some other developing stories. And the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, says it is holding discussions with Gold Coast as well as other companies on potential solutions to enable them generate and pay back locked-up funds of frustrated customers. According to the Securities and Exchange Commission, it is holding discussions with authorities of these companies. I have with me, before we do the interview, let's have a playback of what the Securities and Exchange Commission said last Friday.
We are holding a series of engagements with the company to bring certain assets on board so that we can generate enough funds to pay their investors with them. What is happening is that they have a lot of investment locked up with microfinance companies and government contracts, as well as other places. So we are trying to see how best we can mobilize those resources so that investors can have their monies back. How soon? We are working on it. I can't really tell, but we are seriously working on it. And we are hearing a lot of complaints too. So any investor who is unable to redeem investment can report to SEC so that we can document and call the company to see how best those investments can be paid back.
All right, so joining me now in the studio for some clarification to this is General Manager, External Affairs and Investor Relations of Gold Coast Securities, Benjamin Afre. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the marketplace. So before we even proceed, have you had any engagements with the SEC concerning possibility of sale of your assets to pay back locked-up funds?
Well, thank you. We have engaged the Securities and Exchange Commission, but it is to put before them a certain solution to the problem that we have. And fortunately enough, we've had some feedback on that we are working on. And so hopefully, before the end of the month, we are working to send the final documents to them for their final review and hopefully approval for us to put in place for our
Could you give us a hint of what you've actually agreed with the SEC or are in a position to agree?
Well, it is not about agreement, but it's about what we are doing. So we are saying that there are assets that have been created as a result of the investment we've made. So what we are doing is to put it behind a certain program that we want to bring on board. And the idea is that, one, it would help us generate the needed liquidity so we can pay customers. Because as you know, it is not something that will be turned around within a matter of a short period of time. It will take a bit of time. But as long as we have investments, we want to make sure we can, one, protect the investment and work with the state that we can retain the needed liquidity and pay our customers as well.
Is liquidation an option on the plate?
It is not. Liquidation is not the option that we are discussing because there is actually no reason why we should liquidate. what we have done rather is that because there are investment, remember that the issue is that of liquidity, not that of assets. The fact that there are assets there, but we don't have the liquidity to pay as the demands are coming up. And so what we are saying is that let us put this asset behind, use it, or use it as a leverage to raise either new money or to convert what it is that we have now into something that will bring the liquidity needed to take care of our customers as well. And as you know, you may be aware that actually SEC is also engaging not just us, but other
distressed companies as well.
Exactly, in the country, to work with them, to work with the BOG as well, to see what kind of support, what kind of help they can give so that we can come out of this difficulty.
So for now, what is the payment schedule like? Have you been able to remit some other payments, some other customers of their funds?
Yes, as for payments, I've kept saying that we have never stopped paying, because we are there are different investments we made. There has been difficulties. But what we are doing is that every time we receive a check, every time we receive a cash, every time we're able to take back some of the investment, we pay out to customers. So since last year, actually even last week, some payments were made. This week, as I talk to you, between today and tomorrow, some payments will be made because there are some funds that are gradually coming in. So as and when they come in, they will pay out to customers as well. So they can rest assured. Okay. We want to work to resolve this. We want to work
Any timelines you think could
as I said, this is not a problem we believe will be solved within a matter of a month, for example. But then we are hopeful that before the end of the month, we would have submitted the final documents to the SEC for their review and approval. We believe it will take a bit of time, but we are hopeful that once we get the approval, some of the other things that we are working on would also fall into place, because there are people who are currently looking for approval from the regulator before they can participate in anything else that we are doing. I want to believe that once we have SEC on, working with us closely on this, we'll be able to get the needed approval and then be able to roll this.
Finally, before you go, the other day, this thing crossed my mind. So, and within these turbulent periods, do you still have people, coming to do business with you?
Of course, not in this particular product, because it is a product that has suffered this challenge, and not everything. But there are other products, other things that we work on that we are getting inflows. But of course, it is not as much as we used to prior to the difficulty. But those ones are there and they are functioning quite okay. So once we're able to resolve this, I want to believe we'll go back to regular business as well.
Many thanks for the time, Mr. Frey.
Grateful.
And that was Benjamin Frey. He is the General Manager, External Affairs and Investor Relations of Gold Coast Securities, clarifying the point made by the SEC as to whether there could be some liquidation of the company's assets to defray the cost of customers' funds. Let's move on to other stories now. The Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications says it will soon begin prosecuting perpetrators of fiber cuts as cases of fiber thefts continue to increase. Speaking to Joy Business, Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber, Ken Ashigbe, said dialogue is soon to start and could take effect from next quarter.
Statistics by the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications from 3 telcos, MTN, Vodafone and Tigo, show a sharp rise in incessant fiber cuts. In January 2019 alone, the industry witnessed 264 fiber cuts, up from 203 cuts experienced the same period last year. Similarly, the cost of repairs had doubled to $714,515,000 a month compared to $391,484,000 the previous year. Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications, Ken Ashigbe, said the situation is deteriorating.
The interesting thing is looking just at the recent data for one of the telcos. It shot up to 132, which tells you that now averagely we've gone beyond the 300 levels in terms of the number of cuts, that we're experiencing per month. Very recently, one of our members experienced, there was some disruption in services for one of our members, and that will be MTN. And in that particular incident, what had happened was that you had about 5 cuts happening, to the extent that it cut off virtually the northern part, of the country from the service. And interestingly, these were the networks of the fiber of NITA, because there's a lot of also sharing of infrastructure amongst us, and some of our members use the services of NITA. Another example, let me just illustrate something that happened. One of the networks had decided this year that they were going to budget $500,000 as what they are going to use in fixing fiber cards. By the end of February, they were virtually now going back to their board to increase how much it is that they need to budget for just the repair of fiber cards.
The said impact of this development is contributing to unstable connectivity, poor voice signals and general degraded services. As part of measures to curb the situation, Ken Ashibe said the chamber will soon begin prosecuting persons involved in such activities.
In terms of the lawsuits, I am pretty sure that that's going to happen very soon, because once we have a conversation with people and then it still continues and it's costing all of us a lot of money, we're going to get to the point where even if we can't start with a criminal suit, because for criminal actions, it has to be done by the government. At least we'll bring civil action to bear. But we're also engaging, there's a court currently that sits on weekends, a Saturday court that deals with the issues of copper. We are having engagement with the registrar of that court so that they can extend their mandate also to issues of fiber, so that when these actions happen, we are able to quickly get them to also understand the implication and the gravity of the situation that we find ourselves, so that they would also be able to take this. So in terms of the legal suits, we are hoping that we'll be able to do that definitely in the second quarter. And really, when it comes to that, it will not matter whether you're a state institution, it will not matter whether you're a private institution.
For Joy Business, Sheila Tamaklu.
And just before we go, Head of Business Programming at Multimedia, Emma Morrison, won the Corporate Personality of the Year award at this year's edition of the Ghana Women of the Year honors. We say congratulations to my boss, Emma Morrison. And on that note, we wrap up this afternoon's edition of the Marketplace. It's been great having you on board as usual. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. We have been. Let's catch up again same time tomorrow for more interesting developments in the world of business. Have a good afternoon.